Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sophie's Bar and Grill, whether you are in the comfort of your home or here to join us for our morning meditation this Sunday. Today's meditation will be from a reading from Mark Nepo, followed by some instrumental music meditation. So at this time, I invite you to just close your outer eyes. Fully arrive here in this moment now, letting go every moment that brought you to this place, and just be here now. The reading is titled Being Lost, and there's a quote on the beginning from Helen Luke. The moment we awaken to know that we are lost, to realize, as Jung says, that the ego is not master in the house, then we have begun the journey. When we lose our map, our real knowledge of the path begins. It's humbling because we're forced to touch the earth itself instead of our representations of the earth. Humbling that, just when we lose our little plan of passion, the true impact of care overcomes us because we are forced from our watch of longing along the shore to swim in the red tide of love itself. As Helen Luke pointed out, the journey truly begins when we lose possession of what we thought were answers and are left to accept that we are not in control. Anyone who has lived through loss and been shaken of their grip will admit that beyond every answer waits a larger question, and beyond every arrival waits an unforeseen beginning. Being lost on the inner plane can be understood as a disorientation that is necessary as we are thrust from what we think we know into the vibrant field of all we do not know. This is how being lost can be a prelude to a deeper way, because once we admit that we're not sure where life is taking us, then we are ripe for transformation. We are shapeable. When losing our way, we frequently retreat and withhold or take what we think is a safer path. This often complicates our confusion. An old woodsman told me that the reason most people get lost is because they don't go far enough. They doubt where they are and change direction too soon. Somehow, we are called to lean forward by what little light we are given. The great Jewish philosopher and physician Maimonides said, "We are like someone in a very dark night over whom lightning flashes again and again. Life does seem to dilate and constrict in this way. There are sudden comprehensive moments, lightning flashes, by which we can navigate for a while, sometimes for years. In the moods of confusion in between those very dark nights are where we need to practice patience. Too often, when drifting through a difficult passage of uncertainty, we become negatively self-centered and punish ourselves for not knowing more or not being more decisive. But if we take Maimonides' image to heart, this movement from lightning flash to dark night and back again is part of the journey, despite how hard we work. When the lightning flashes in our mind or in our heart, we glimpse the hidden order and our changing place in it. With eyes closed, let's meditate on a situation or aspect of your life for which the map you've trusted is no longer working. How might you honor it as you would an old guide who has brought you thus far? How might you begin to explore and map the new land before you? as we gently bring ourselves, our awareness back into our bodies, maybe let's take the idea into our day, into our next week, that maybe we're not lost at all. Maybe we're not off course. Knowing that spirit is always oriented at all times, the spirit within us. Let's lean into that which knows. Maybe there's an experience, something to see, something to feel that wasn't on our map at all, that lays just ahead, that spirit is urging us toward. Let's trust that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We hope that you'll stay tuned for our service coming up in a half an hour, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. So very glad that you have chosen to join us or to invite us into your homes if you're watching us on live stream this morning. Thank you very, very much. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the honor and the privilege of being this community's spiritual director. We are part of a larger organization called Centers for Spiritual Living, which believes that there is one power and presence, one creative energy back of everything that there is. Now, I call this power and presence God, but it goes by many different names. And no matter which name you happen to use, there is just one power and presence. And we were created in its image and likeness. And since it is creative, then we too are creative. And in fact, we actually do create the experiences of our lives through our thoughts and our words and our choices and our beliefs and our actions. We create our experience of life. Now, that might seem like a heavy responsibility. However, I think it's the really good news, because if we don't particularly like the experience that we're having, then we are the ones that can absolutely change it. You've probably seen on that bumper sticker, change your thinking, change your life. This is one of our main tenets and one of our basic principles. And we come together on Sundays and Wednesdays and for classes at other times during the week and for social events to really support each other in our understanding of these principles and practices, and to really support each other on the spiritual path, to remind everyone who we really are. And so we're really glad that you've joined us today. I have a couple of special announcements for us this morning, and the first is that June is Pride Month. So today we take a moment to honor, to respect, to celebrate, and to love up our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer folk, their families, and all of their supporters. Please take a look at this video by the ever delightful Wanda Sykes.
Hi there.
Who, me?
Yeah, you seem like an average guy.
Well, I love smoothies and drive a Prius, if that's what you mean.
Exactly. Quick question. Have you ever thought how your life might be different if you were gay?
Not really. I guess it would be a little harder. Wait, was that homophobic? Oh God, I'm really sorry.
This is a safe space, Carl.
My name is Mark.
Whatever. You're right, though. Being gay has its challenges, but it hasn't always been like this.
Like the Greeks?
Absolutely. The earliest evidence of gay relationships is from ancient Greece, although that was mostly about older and younger men. Did you know Socrates was in the closet?
I didn't. I also didn't know they had closets back then. When did all the crazy homophobia start?
Homophobia seemed to start in the church during the High Middle Ages. Whoa. And in the Renaissance, it got even worse.
What happened?
Well, if you were outed, let's just say it would have been bad.
Ah!
There were still plenty of brave people who revolted. On August 31st, 1512, a group of young aristocrats living in Florence staged what many consider history's first gay rights demonstration. But that didn't stop homophobia from migrating to colonial America. In 1776, being gay in any of the Puritan colonies was not allowed.
Jeez. So when did things start to change for the better?
It wasn't until the 20th century that we started to see progress. Gay bars were popping up in major cities, but were frequently raided by the police because being gay was still illegal in every state except Illinois.
Go Bears!
Exactly. One of these bars was the popular Stonewall Inn in New York City. On the morning of June 28, 1969, which also happened to be the day of Judy Garland's funeral, the patrons of the Stonewall Inn decided they weren't going to take it.
Hell yeah.
A black transgender woman named Marsha P. Johnson is credited with leading the uprising that started the modern gay rights movement and putting the T in LGBT. Now, every November, the T's and their supporters recognize Transgender Awareness Week.
This is great. It seems like things were going pretty well.
For a while.
A while? What happened next?
Well, in the early 80s, the world was hit by the AIDS epidemic, and the gay community was hit hardest. AIDS became known as a gay disease. In fact, it was originally called GRID, which means gay-related immune deficiency.
No way.
It's true. Many people think that the government didn't act quickly enough because it was considered a gay disease. So the LGBTQ community had to fight it themselves.
So how did they fight it?
They got organized. Activist groups like ACT UP, the Gay Men's Health Crisis, Lesbian AIDS Project, and the Names Project emerged and refused to be ignored. This newly empowered gay community had one goal.
What was that?
To come out. They thought the problem with homophobia was that people didn't know other people who were gay. And if more people came out, they would be seen for who they are and not just as a stereotype. Convincing people to come out was still a tough task, but things got easier in 1997 when Ellen appeared on the cover of Time magazine and told the world, "Yep, I'm gay." After that, more and more gay people started appearing in TV and movies, helping millions feel more confident to love who they want.
Wow, what a journey. I'm kind of digging myself as a gay person.
Slow down. We're not done just yet.
But we've come so far. Can we just celebrate for a minute?
No time for that, Carl. We still have a lot of laws to change.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Being gay was more accepted, but there were still a lot of rights that gay people didn't have. However, they did have something they didn't have before.
What?
Allies. Yeah, in 2003, Massachusetts became the first state to legalize marriage equality. And 12 years later, it was legal in all 50 states, much in thanks to a majority of Americans who supported it. So as a gay person living in 2019, how would you feel?
Pretty happy I live in the present, grateful for all the heroes who fought before me, and hopeful for the future.
I'm glad, because the fight for equality is still going. It takes a village, and we're going to need your help.
It does take a village, so we support all of our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community, plus community. So happy Pride Month, everyone. And the second is the moment you've all been waiting for all month, our flower dedication. Today, the first of the month, we would love to be able to speak your name into the room. However, we don't want to leave off one single person off the list. So we're simply dedicating today's flower dedication to everybody with a birthday in June. See if this sounds like you. People who have birthdays in June have dynamic and charming personalities. Possessing a mind that's always filled with thoughts and ideas, they are endlessly imaginative and continually open to new and thrilling ideas and adventures. They prefer to do things in their own way and fuel their choices by following their own inner instincts. Their days are spent in giving significant importance to kindness and compassion for others. They have a great fashion sense and are more optimistic than not, and more inclined to win a Nobel Prize than anyone else. They're good at planning and organizing and always give their very best effort to be their highest and best self at any given moment. Is there anyone in the room with a birthday in June? Not in June. All right. So we see you. We know who you really are. We're grateful for you, and we celebrate you and the day that you arrived on the planet. We love you. Happy birthday. So I would now like to thank our lovely spiritual practitioner, Michelle Love, for her beautiful meditation that really expanded the container that our service is unfolding within this morning. Thank you so very much, Michelle. And speaking of Michelle, let's welcome her back up to the podium.
Thank you, Reverend Dusty. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Our theme, or the CSL theme for the year 2022, is Living Everyday Wonder. Our theme for the month of June is Body. Reverend Dusty's talk title today is Welcome to the Temple. I'm now going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives into being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God, and so it is. Now I invite you to close your outer eyes for a couple minutes as we allow the sounds of the crystal bowls to move through us in this short meditation while we center ourselves here and now.
Please continue to stay turned within as I speak a word of blessing on today's service. Recognizing the one source, the one power back of all of creation. Knowing that source as spirit, as God, as whatever you want to call it. It is that from which we all came. It is peace, it is love, it is joy. It is the wonder of nature. It is the perfection of our physical bodies. It is the connection we have with one another and with all of the people in our lives. It is that pure source of power, of infinite wisdom and intelligence. I know that I am one with that source, one with each of those God qualities, that who I am, the truth of me, is peace, love, and joy. I know that as the truth of me, as I know that as the truth of each of us. That golden thread connects us all to spirit and to one another. And from that place of unity, I speak a word of blessing on this morning's celebration service, knowing that it is already whole, perfect, and complete in the mind of God, and that it flows with ease and grace. I speak a word of blessing on Reverend Dusty as she comes forward, knowing that Spirit speaks through her and that we are open to receive her message. Our minds and our hearts are open, and that we will hear exactly what it is that will touch us today and stay with us throughout the week. I speak a word of blessing on Sandy as he comes forward to share his gift of music and song, and that it also opens our heart and elevates our spirit. I speak a word of blessing on Michelle Love as she prepared today with her beautiful meditation. And I speak a word of blessing on Ava as she allows this service to be shared online with her service in our AV. And I speak a word of blessing on our community, on each of those here today at Sophie's, each of those at home listening, and all of those that will listen and watch this service in the days and weeks to come. Knowing that we are all blessed to have this opportunity to get still and to recognize that spiritual power that is always present for us, always available to comfort us, to lift us, to guide us, to inform our day-to-day living, and to help us grow ever closer to the goal of creating that world that works for everyone. I am so grateful for this time, for this service, for this community, and I ask you to anchor this blessing for ourselves and for each other with our words, and so it is. Amen. The author of the reading today is Reverend Jan Richardson. She says, "This life takes one look at you and all it can say is holy. Holy hands, holy face, holy feet, holy everything in between. Holy even in pain and when weary. In brokenness, holy. In shame, holy still. Holy in delight, in distress. Holy when being born and at the hour of our death. Open your holy eyes. See what this life sees. This blessing that knows how you have been formed and knit together in wonder and in love. Receive this blessing that wants to kneel in reverence before you. You who are temple, sanctuary, home for God in this world." And now, the wonderful gift, Sandy Hemingway.
Have an immediate idea of what to do, but I just let it come to me. And this is a song I wrote a number of years ago. It's called Middle of the River. And it's about zeal and passion and how much of ourselves we are willing to throw into that which we love. There is a river of light. It looks so inviting. And this river of light can seem so exciting. But it's so scary, so wild and so vast. People call it the river of life, and it runs out fast. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Dive inside my life and let the love light flow. To me, through me, become a new me. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Some people, they just watch on the shore, fearing surprise, wondering why life hasn't given them more. Some people just stick their big toe in. They quake and they shiver, testing the river again and again and again. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Dive inside my life and let the love light flow. To me, through me, become a new me. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Some people walking up to their knees, they won't go too far, content where they are, never willing to be free. Some people wading up to their waist, oh yeah. It's great to be there, but they will not dare to ever really deepen their faith. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Dive inside my life and let the love light flow. To me, through me, become a new me. Middle of the river is where I want to go. In our river's flow, we feel alive. Still we can breathe. If we are to grow, then we must dive in over our head. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Dive inside my life and let the love light flow. To me, through me, become a new me. Middle of the river is where I want to go. Is where I want to go. Is where I want to go. Is where I want to go.
Woo! That was awesome, Sandy. Great choice. Beautiful song. Great way that you did it. It was wonderful. Thanks again very much. So, welcome to the temple. So often we find ourselves saying that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation. Or perhaps we might say that we have a body, but we're not our body. Now, both of these are true. Both of these are correct statements. And yet, what it might suggest to some people is a spiritual understanding that denies the worth or the value or the spiritual nature of the body. Our bodies are divinely created, part of the kingdom of God, otherwise we wouldn't have them. The body is not somehow separate from God or from the spiritual. It's simply another glorious aspect of the whole beingness of God or of the wholeness of life itself. While our bodies have a physical nature, this does not divorce them from the spiritual. Rather, they act as an intermediary, right? An intermediary in which we are allowed to navigate the physical realm. Rather than engaging in a spirituality that denies the body, we can move closer to an experience of God here and now by fully engaging in it. Take that dive into the middle of the river. Take that body into the middle of the river. Our bodies are magnificent. They are a magical conduit between God and our individual consciousness and ought to be celebrated for the way that they allow us to really experience the world that we live in. All bodies are a direct and clear path to the divine experience if we will allow it. By loving the body, using it to connect our minds and our hearts, listening to its wisdom, we celebrate its magnificence and we awaken to this everyday wonder that is right here, that is always with us, this a really amazing, magnificent, everyday wonder that is our body. The body is a tool. It's a tool for spiritual connection and understanding, and it ought to be respected as such. There's a story that speaks to this about a psychologist who works with teenagers. And apparently she had 2 clients with very similar backgrounds. They were both juniors in high school. They were both good students, and they both had pretty high GPAs. They both came from comfortable homes. They were the same race, and they lived in the same general area of town. The 2 young women, however, were very different, drastically different when they came to the psychologist's office. Now, the psychologist noticed that the first client was very happy, relaxed, well-adjusted, and generally doing very well emotionally. She felt connected to her family and to her friends. She handled challenges with grace, and she looked forward to her future. She played on the high school softball team, and she felt pretty comfortable in her own skin. The second young woman, however, struggled. She was anxious and sad, and she didn't feel like she fit in. She struggled with an eating disorder and felt that she just wasn't right. She didn't really like herself, and she didn't really like her body, the body that she lived in. And with therapy, she eventually became more comfortable and healed, but it took a lot of work. Now, the psychologist reflected on these 2 young women and thought that the main difference that she could find between them was their relationship that they had built with their bodies, beginning at a very young age and on throughout their lives. The first young woman developed a very wonderful relationship in which she partnered with her body. She used it to play sports. She noticed all the sensations that it felt, and she gave it whatever it told her that she needed. The second, however, always viewed her body as a thing that was somehow separate from her, something that she was just stuck with. She didn't feel like she could get rid of it, and she didn't like it, so she punished it. She really held it to an unreasonable standard, told herself that it wasn't good enough, and because of this, she suffered. Now, the conclusion that this psychologist came to was that those of us that have healthy relationships with our bodies, who treat them as partners, who look after their needs, and who really integrate their spiritual selves, that self with a capital S, with their body, have more stable and more fulfilling lives. We are better able to adapt. And we know that we have a friend here, a friend that's always with us, no matter what situation we're in, and that is our body. Instead of looking at our body as something separate from ourselves, linking it together with our spiritual self, taking good care of it, listening to it, and respecting it makes all the difference in the world. Now, the underlying truth is that we're not going to get any closer to God by denying the goodness and the greatness of the whole aspect of it. Our bodies are an aspect of God, part of the whole of God. It's the bottom of our teaching symbol, that whole bottom third, right? It is a part or an aspect of the whole, the body of God. So our bodies are not simply living machines, they're temples in which God is able to live, breathe, move, and have its being in the way that it wants to do so. Our bodies are responsive to all of our thoughts, and they're more than just vessels for us to drive around in. They're dynamic and expressive creations of the divine itself. In 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 2 Corinthians 6:16, Paul taught of our need to remember just what was dwelling within us. And those verses say, "Do you not know that you are a temple of God? That the Spirit of God dwells in you?" Your body, my body, and everybody's body is the temple of the divine right here and right now, showing up as uniquely as possible so that indeed God can express its creativity, each one of us completely different from the other, so that it can express its creativity through us, and so that it can experience this earthly reality in many different and individualized ways because of who we are, who our bodies are. Now, if God meant simply to convey the idea that Spirit lives within us, then the verses could well have used words like home or house or residence. But it didn't use those words. It used the word temple. And by choosing to use the word temple to describe the Spirit's dwelling, the divine conveys the idea that our bodies are the shrine. They are the sacred place in which the Spirit not only lives, but is worshiped and respected and honored. The phrase, "your body is a temple," is widely used by Christians and non-Christians alike. It's been used both in Christian and in secular music in the past, and in merchandising as well. I've seen t-shirts, "Your body is a temple." It's one of the most well-known verses in the Bible, but it's frequently misunderstood. What does it mean to say that our bodies are temples? And why is this particular imagery the imagery that was chosen, and why does that imagery work so well with the bodies that God has created for us? And more importantly, how can we consider our bodies as temples? Now, first of all, to really understand that phrase or those verses, we need to define what a temple is. Now, to the Israelites in the Old Testament, the temple was their sacred place to meet with God. They worshiped there, they made sacrifices there, and they presented their requests, right, to God there. The analogy of a temple points to the temple that was present in Jerusalem, the temple that Paul knew at that time. This temple, however, was a rebuilt version of a really magnificent temple that Solomon had created many, many, many years before that. And the truth is that even before the Israelites had a temple, they had a tabernacle. And the tabernacle was mobile. And the purpose of this portable tabernacle was to be a place where heaven met earth, so that God could commune with his people wherever they traveled. Wherever the Israelites went, God wanted to go. And so there was this portable tabernacle, which then became this magnificent temple that Solomon created, which was then demolished and then rebuilt to be the temple that Paul talked about in those verses in 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Now, one meaning that we can make about the analogy of describing our body as a temple can be oneness. Oneness. In Bible Mystery and Bible Meaning, Thomas Troward said, there are three typical figures of the Hebrew history: the beginning, the middle, and the end. Moses, Solomon, and Jesus. The three are distinguished by a common characteristic. They are all builders of the temple. Moses erected the tabernacle, the portable tabernacle, which accompanied the Israelites in their journeying. Solomon reproduced it in an edifice of wood and stone fixed firmly upon its rocky foundation, while Jesus spoke about the temple of his body. Three great builders. Three great builders, each building from a perfect understanding or a perfect knowledge according to a divine pattern. According to a divine pattern. Now, consider that divine pattern has absolutely no variations. God has no variations. God is always God. You with me? So God is always God. So there's no variations in that. And they were building from that divine pattern. The three builders built using the same principle, that same divine pattern, however differently expressed. Each one expressed the all-embracing truth that God, man, and the universe, however varied they are one. Everything from that divine pattern. Even though different, even though each and every single one of us are different, uniquely individualized expressions. Our bodies, our minds, our personalities, all of it. In fact, Solomon, the name Solomon is derived from a word that signifies wholeness, meaning the one who has realized the wholeness, or in other words, the universal unity of all things, with absolutely no exception. Thomas Troward goes on to say, he who has found the unity of the whole has obtained the key of knowledge and is now in his power to enter intelligently upon the study of his own being and of the relationships which arise out of it, and to help others as he himself advances into greater light. This is the man who is able to become a builder, the one who understands the oneness. The bottom line is that when we live from our awareness of our oneness with everything and everyone, then we are poised. We are poised to grow and to evolve, and not only to grow and evolve ourselves, but to assist others in doing that very same thing. This is the object of the divine body temple. It's not only substance, but it's life and intelligence and power, and it was created to express the divine mind perfectly. This temple is built in the understanding of Spirit as the one and only cause of all things. All things. So that first idea is oneness. Another meaning that we can make about the analogy of describing our bodies as a temple can be to see our bodies as a gift. See our bodies as a gift. Now, society, right, we can mention a zillion different ways in which it does this, but society will often promote unnatural standards of beauty and youth. When we perceive that our body doesn't fit a certain mold that race consciousness tells us it should be, or we notice a few extra wrinkles or a few more gray hairs, or we don't experience the same kind of muscularity that we see on somebody else and enjoy, then we might see our bodies as anything but a gift. The invitation is for each of us to keep in mind that we were created in the image and likeness of God. That whatever our human perception is saying about our bodies are actually whole, perfect, and complete. Our bodies are magnificent and amazing. Who are we to criticize God or to be in resistance to the divine creation that we are? When we view our bodies as a creation of the Most High, we can combat our resistance to honoring it, no matter what. And when we're able to do that, then we can powerfully step into our lives. We can powerfully step into our calling and our purpose on earth without any hesitation. This body will get me there. The invitation is to love what you have been given. Another meaning that we can make about the analogy of describing our bodies as a temple is the responsibility that we have to take care of the temple. As I said before, by using the word temple, God conveyed the idea that our bodies are the shrine or the sacred place in which the Spirit not only lives, but is worshiped and respected and honored. We human beings are accountable to God for the way in which we care for our bodies. The temple that Solomon built was magnificent. And within that temple structure, there were two courts. The first court was the court of the Gentiles. And this was the outer court. The outer court, the outer circumference of the temple itself, in which all people of every nation could gather and be in touch with the spiritual life. Anything and everything was welcome in that particular court, the external aspect of it, right? The second court was deeper into the temple itself. And the Gentiles in general were not allowed to enter the inner court. Only those who took religious vows were permitted in. So just keep all this in the back of your head as we continue here. Just stay with me for a minute. Metaphysically, this is saying that not everything belonged in the inner sanctuary. And that whenever anything entered the temple of God, that inner sanctuary of God that was not supposed to be there, then someone attempted to dispel it. For example, the Jews got rid of the statue of Zeus that was present in the inner sanctuary after the Maccabean revolt. Jesus, if you remember, turned over the tables of the money changers and the other merchants that were there in that inner sanctuary and totally disrespecting the sacredness of the temple itself. He turned over their tables and chased them out. Now, one way to treat our body as a temple is to get rid of the junk. Get rid of the stuff that's not supposed to be there, the stuff that's not welcome. We cannot serve two masters ruling the temple at the same time. The invitation is to remove the idols, as they did with that statue of Zeus, to remove the idols that we may have in the temple that is our human body. So the way that I want you to think about this is how we behave, think, and speak. And what we allow into the temple through our eyes and our ears, certain television programming and all other kinds of things, weapons of mass distraction, as Michael Beckwith would call it. So those things, how we behave, how we think, how we speak, what we believe, and what we let into the temple becomes critically important, because every thought, every word, every belief, and every deed is creative, right? We know that. Our thoughts, our words, our beliefs are creative. So what are we creating in our lives with the junk that's in our temple? That inner sanctuary is reserved for those things that we specifically, consciously allow in. Not everything. Beyond that, the invitation is to get rid of bitterness and rage and resentment and anger and blame and judgment and prejudice and malice and slander, to name just a few things that shouldn't be in that inner sanctuary. Removing junk could also literally mean removing items that deteriorate our health and our well-being. I don't even need to go into a list of all that. Going even deeper, these two courts, that outer court and the inner court, are representative of two states of mind. So those who live from their higher selves and those who live from their lower selves. In the spiritual life, those who seek God must live differently from those who live out of their lower selves, from those that live from their sense consciousness, or that are ruled by their human perceptions, which may or may not be telling them the truth. In the process, right, in the process of our development and evolution, there are certain conditions that need to be preserved. The rabble, right, the rabble from the outer court cannot enter that inner court without purification, without us really looking at it. Is this what I really want to be in there? People who strive to enter that inner court without a mental cleansing, which is essentially a change of mind, will meet with the same or similar conditions that they have always met in all of the experiences of their lives. Nothing new in, nothing new out. In order for there to be change and growth, there must be a change of mind and a relinquishment of all that does not belong in that inner sanctuary, in our consciousness. In the inner court of Solomon's temple, there was this altar, and it was gilded with gold, right? And it was 30 feet square and 7.5 feet high, and it was for sacrificial offerings. Now, on this altar, burnt offerings of all kinds were made. Every person who came to worship was expected to bring an offering. Now, this was like a calf or a goat or a dove or something like that. These offerings are representative. Remember, we're not talking literally here, we're talking metaphysically. So these offerings are representative of giving up the sense proclivities or giving up those things that no longer serve us. The altar is symbolic of our willingness to build the emotional and spiritual and mental qualities that are necessary for growth and for transformation. Our willingness to do that. Still further in the interior, that second court was the brazen sea, something called the brazen sea, and it was held up by 12 brazen oxen. Now, the brazen sea represents the soul, and the soul requires a certain cleansing of the whole consciousness. Right? Remember, if you've taken foundations, that soul, that middle part, is the soil. So it requires a cleansing. A certain kind, a cleansing. And it says, whoever enters the temple must realize their innate purity, to return to the innocence that we arrived on the planet with, that blank slate, so that anything and everything is possible. Otherwise, that soil is filled with all kinds of things that we might not want there, right? That inner temple. That inner temple that is our body. The physiological, psychological, and spiritual aspects of the human all comprise God's temple. All of it. And once we get past the idea that the temple is a physical being, then we can begin to understand the metaphysical lessons that are behind this. Yes, there were literally temples in the past that people worship in. But in our teaching, in New Thought teaching everywhere, the biblical temples mentioned in Scripture are actually layouts, patterns of the human soul. Jesus taught about beauty, and he taught about the continuity of the body temple. This was one of his missions, of his ministry. He first proclaimed that his ministry was to preach and it was to heal. But underlying all of that, all of his work was to demonstrate the perfection of the temple, to establish the true worship of the living God through the body, through all of our bodies, each and every single one of us. The invitation this morning is to live as Jesus lived, to be so completely aware of and in alignment with our oneness. I and the Father are one. Of that he had absolutely no doubt, right? So to recognize our oneness, to see our body as a gift, to love what we have been given, and to assume responsibility for the care of our temple. I leave you with the words of Reverend Scott Aubrey, who says, there's a story about 3 brick masons who were working together on a project. When asked what they were building, the first answered gruffly, "I'm laying bricks." The second mason replied, "I'm building a wall." But the third mason proudly said, "I'm building a cathedral." Our lives are for the purpose of making them cathedrals. making them temples of the divine that dwells within. The ground upon which we walk is holy. And so it is. And so it is. So I invite everyone to turn within. To turn within and to turn our eyes away from that outer court and turn our eyes inward to that inner court, to that inner sanctuary, the spark of the divine within us. And to know that it is truly who we are. Yes, spiritual beings having a human incarnation, but an incarnation that is happening in a body that is truly holy. Holy hands, holy face, holy feet, and holy everything in between. A holy vehicle for God's creativity, and so that the divine can experience everything on earth. This is a divine temple, a vessel for the life, the beingness of the divine to reside within. This is true not only for me, it's true for each and every single one of us. Each of us unique. Each of our bodies unique. Each of us unique in the way that God works through and as us, through and as our bodies. These temples, a place for worship and for reverence and for respect and for honoring. They truly are our friends, not something to rail against, not something to be mad at or feel completely separate from, but something to know that we are in co-creation with, that we can listen to them, that we can honor them, that we can give them what they need and keep out of the inner sanctuary that which does not serve them or us or our lives. I claim ease and grace for each of us around doing that, around knowing what that looks like and being able to powerfully step into our ability to really live that kind of life. To live the life of the teenager, the one teenager that was so in harmony with her body. I know this is possible for each and every single one of us, and that as we do so, we allow for growth and for transformation and for really powerfully stepping into the life that we really want to live. And that as we do so, we not only shift and change our own lives, but we allow others, we create the space for others, we assist others to do the same in their lives. And as more and more of us continue to do this, that we ultimately create a world that works for everyone. And I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes. That my words are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them into that law. Letting go and letting God be God. I invite each and every single one of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, and for the entire planet. Simply by saying, and so it is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all so very much. It is now time for our conscious giving. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living is sustained by the giving of our time, our talent, and our treasures. This is a time every week when we offer financial support to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of light and warmth and love in the greater Triangle area. Together we affirm the truth that this offering lifts this particular spiritual community, that it prospers the one giving, and that it adds to the experience of sufficiency on the planet. On the screen and on your screens at home are the 3 ways that you can do this. To visit our website at www.trianglecsl.org. Text the word give using the following number, 919-230-8445, or to mail your gift to our office. And our address is PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina 27519. Please place your hands on your heart and with your gift or with an affirmation and an intention. And let's say our offering affirmation in a call and response. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. So it is. Thank you all so very much for your generosity. It is now time to welcome back to his piano the amazing Sandy Hemingway.
So the second thought I had with going with the talk topic is COVID and what that has done to us in both physical ways and spiritual ways over the last 2 years. And this is a song by Jamie Lula, and I think it's very appropriate for where we are today. It's called "There's a Healing Going On." Let me walk to the banks of the river of love, where the current runs deep, baptized in the one, where there's no separation and the light is all we see. Honoring all our differences, and love will set us free. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I see blessings of the past. It's time to requalify. Let's not forget and learn to forgive. God knows we gotta try. It's my responsibility to heal the wounds in me. Compassion, faith, and hope, and love, and truth will set us free. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Whew.
that was powerful. If you would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. And on the homepage, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill out the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to all the ministers and practitioners. If anyone would like to dedicate a flower dedication to anyone for anything, please send an email to info@trianglecsl.org or dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. Please join us this Friday evening for our TCSL movie night. That will be June 10th at 6:30 p.m. We will watch the movie and share our insights with each other afterwards. We will be showing the 2022 Academy Award winning Best Animated Movie Encanto. This story follows a multi-generational Colombian family, the Madrigals, whose children and grandchildren, except for Mirabel Madrigal, receive magical gifts from a miracle that helps them serve the people in their rural community called the Encanto. Blessed to live in a secret, enchanted haven, the exceptional Madrigal family have found shelter in a secure mountainous realm in Colombia, brimming with color and kindness. When an unpredictable, terrible crisis puts the future of the tight-knit community in jeopardy, it is up to Mirabel to step up and try to save the day. Can the unlikely defender protect the family and find her true calling? Come and find out. We will gather at the Lodge at Crossroads, which is 200 Brisbane Woods Way in Cary. Please bring your own beverage, and if you'd like, a snack to share. And also please RSVP at info@trianglecsl.org. And please consider saving the date, Saturday, June 25th. We're so excited to have it back for the 10th annual Out Raleigh celebration. We will once again be hosting a vendor table during the Raleigh Pride event. We are looking for people who are willing to come and assist us to staff the table throughout the day. It's a wonderful opportunity to talk with people, to hear their stories, and to share the welcoming space that we are. Setup will begin at 8 a.m. and the event starts at 11, lasts until 6 p.m. We need assistance to set up our space and to staff the table throughout the day. If you're interested in assisting us for an hour or more, please email info@trianglecsl.org. Let us know when you're willing to serve, and we will create a schedule. We promise you it will be a wonderful day. Now, in the comfort of your own home and here at Sophie's, please stand for our June affirmation. This is a call and response. I invite you to say it with meaning and repeat after me. My body is not separate from my spiritual life. It is a divinely created, integral aspect of the kingdom of heaven. As such, it is the house of the divine on earth. As an awe-inspiring manifestation of God, my body is perfect exactly as it is. As an awe-inspiring manifestation of God, my body is perfect exactly as it is. Today, I dive into the wonder that is my body and consciously choose to treat it kindly. Today, I dive into the wonder that is my body and consciously choose to treat it kindly. I say yes to becoming friends with it and listening to its voice. I say yes to becoming friends with it and listening to its voice. Today, I am appreciative of everything it is capable of and affirm that God is as much in the body as it is in the heart. Today, I am appreciative of everything it is capable of and affirm that God is as much in the body as it is in the heart. Knowing that it is a divine tool that is absolutely vibrating with the flow of source, I use it to feel into the now moment. Knowing that it is a divine tool that is absolutely vibrating with the flow of source, I use it to feel into the now moment. By honoring and loving my body, I have a richer experience of the divine. By honoring and loving my body, I have a richer experience of the divine. And so it is. Thank you. You may be seated. Once again, please turn within, closing your outer eyes as I speak a word of gratitude for today's service. Recognizing the Spirit flowing through all that has transpired today. Recognizing that one power that is everywhere, all of the time. I know that I am one with that power, one with that ease and grace, one with that knowingness of who I truly am. I know that as the truth of me, as I know that as the truth of each of those listening today and all of those listening in the future. I know today has transpired in perfection and that the message was heard with open ears. And that as we reflect throughout the week on the magnificent miracle that is our physical body, we also reflect on the body in all the ways that it shows up in spiritual and in form. I'm so grateful for this time together. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful for Sophie's for hosting us. I'm grateful for this beautiful day. And I'm grateful for you. And so it is.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you all. Again, it's first Sunday of the month, so the flowers are dedicated to everybody who has a birthday in June. And also, the first Sunday of the month is Lunch Bunch Sunday. So we're staying here at Sophie's and celebrating the June birthdays with or without you. Is there anybody that came in late that has a birthday in June? Hey! Yay. So Pat, we're celebrating Pat today. She gets to take home the flowers. She gets everything. Lunch Bunch. Come and join us. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I love you. Bye.